Victor Langston leaned back in his leather chair, his lips curling into a practiced smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm sure you'll find something more suitable elsewhere," he said, his tone dripping with insincerity. Nia Thompson's jaw tightened. She had walked into this office expecting professionalism, but was met with thinly veiled contempt instead. "More suitable," she shot back, her voice sharp as steel, "or just less white?" The room seemed to freeze for a moment. Victor blinked, caught off guard by her directness, but quickly recovered. "Miss Thompson, I assure you it's not about race," he began, his words laced with false sincerity. "It's always about race when someone like me walks through your door," Nia interrupted, standing tall despite the weight of his condescension pressing down on her. Beside her, Marcus shifted uncomfortably, his fists clenched at his sides. He wanted to step in, to say something, anything, but Nia's glare told him to stay silent. This was her fight. Victor cleared his throat, visibly uneasy now. "Look, Miss Thompson, these are the seller's preferences, not mine. They're looking for someone who fits the neighborhood profile." "And what exactly does that mean?" Nia demanded, leaning forward slightly. Her voice carried an edge that made even Marcus flinch. Victor hesitated, realizing too late that he'd backed himself into a corner. But rather than admit defeat, he doubled down. "It means they want someone who shares their values, their lifestyle, someone who aligns with—" "Enough," Nia snapped, cutting him off before he could dig himself deeper. She wasn't here to listen to excuses cloaked in euphemisms. She already knew what he meant, and so did everyone else in the room, whether they admitted it or not. As the tension mounted, Nia glanced around the office, searching for anything that might give her leverage. That's when she saw it. A framed photo on the wall behind Victor's desk. It showed him standing proudly in front of row after row of houses, all on Elm Street, all owned by him. Nia's gaze lingered on the photo just long enough to spark a flicker of recognition in Victor's eyes. He shifted nervously in his seat, clearly uncomfortable under her scrutiny. "You own all those houses," she said flatly, pointing toward the image without breaking eye contact. "So don't tell me this is about seller preferences. It's about yours." Victor's face flushed red, whether from anger or embarrassment it was hard to say. "Those properties belong to clients who trust me to represent their interests," he replied stiffly. "If they feel a certain way about potential buyers, I can't ignore that." "So let me get this straight," Nia countered, her voice rising ever so slightly. "You're saying these anonymous sellers won't sell to us because we don't fit some arbitrary profile, and you're fine with that?" "They have every right to choose who lives next door to them," Victor argued. Weakly, though his confidence wavered with each word, Marcus finally spoke up, his deep voice cutting through the tension. "What you're describing isn't a choice. It's discrimination, plain and simple." Nia nodded, seizing the opening Marcus had created. "Exactly. You're hiding behind vague phrases like neighborhood profile and shared values. But we both know what's really going on. You don't think people like us deserve to live on Elm Street." Victor opened his mouth to protest, but no words came out. Instead, he looked away, unable or unwilling to meet either of their gazes. The truth hung heavy in the air between them, undeniable and suffocating. For a brief moment, Nia allowed herself to savor the small victory. But this wasn't over, not by a long shot. As she turned to leave, her eyes landed once again on the photo of Victor, posing smugly in front of his empire. There was something there, something she could use, something powerful. Walking out of the office, Nia felt the sting of humiliation burning in her chest. But beneath it lay something else, determination. She stopped abruptly near the exit, turning to face Marcus. "He owns all those houses," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Not with fear, but with purpose." "Every single one of them," Marcus frowned, confused. And if he thinks refusing to sell us one house is going to stop us, he's got another thing coming." Nia's lips curled into a faint smile, dangerous and calculating. We're buying his entire street. Marcus stared at her, stunned. Are you serious? That's ambitious. It's justice, Nia corrected, her tone leaving no room for argument. He uses those properties to keep families like ours out. Well, guess what? We're taking them back, every last one. As they stepped outside, the cool breeze hit Nia's face, grounding her. For the first time since entering Victor's office, she felt a sense of control. A plan was forming in her mind, hazy but promising. She didn't know how yet, but she would make Victor pay for his arrogance, and maybe, just maybe, change the neighborhood forever. But first, she needed help, real help. Someone who understood the law, someone who could guide them through the chaos ahead, someone like Lena. Back in the comfort of their penthouse apartment, Nia paced the living room floor, her mind racing with possibilities. Marcus sat on the couch, his brow furrowed as he watched her strategize aloud. We need to hit him where it hurts, Nia said, her voice steady but charged with purpose. His properties are his pride and joy. If we take them away, we'll expose him for what he really is, a fraud who profits off hate. Marcus nodded slowly, processing her words. It's a big risk, though. Buying all those houses won't be cheap, and if we don't do this right, we could lose everything. I know, Nia replied without hesitation, but think about it. Every house we buy becomes a statement, a chance to rewrite the rules of that neighborhood, and maybe even change the system. Just then, the doorbell rang. Nia opened it to find Dr. Lena Hayes, her childhood best friend and civil rights lawyer extraordinaire. Lena stepped inside, already sensing the storm brewing between Nia and Marcus. So, I hear you two are planning to declare war on one of the biggest real estate moguls in town? Lena asked, raising an eyebrow. Her tone was light, but there was no mistaking the seriousness behind her question. Nia crossed her arms. Not just war, justice. We're buying every property Victor owns on Elm Street, but we'll need your help to make sure we stay on the right side of the law. Lena exhaled sharply, clearly torn. Look, I admire your determination, Nia, but this isn't just risky. It's dangerous. One wrong move and you'll give him exactly what he wants, ammunition to paint you as the aggressor. We're not backing down, Nia shot back firmly. If we play it smart, we can turn his own greed against him. And when we win, no one will ever forget what happened here. After a long pause, Lena finally nodded. All right. You've got my support. But let's be clear, we're doing this legally, no shortcuts. With Lena on board, the pieces began falling into place. For the first time since leaving Victor's office, Nia felt a glimmer of hope. But she also knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, not by a long shot. The next morning, Nia met with Darnell Rivers, a former employee of Victor's company turned whistleblower, in a quiet corner of a local cafe. Darnell slid a folder across the table, his hands trembling slightly. This is everything I could gather, he said quietly, avoiding eye contact. Victor's been using predatory lending practices for years. He targets minority families, offering loans with impossible terms. When they default, he swoops in and buys their homes for pennies on the dollar. Nia flipped through the documents, her stomach churning as she read case after case of families losing their homes, not because they couldn't afford them, but because Victor had rigged the system against them. He's not just keeping people out of neighborhoods like Elm Street, Darnell continued. He's actively displacing them from communities they've built. It's evil. As Nia absorbed the magnitude of Victor's crimes, a fire ignited within her. This wasn't just about her family anymore. It was about every black family who'd been robbed of their dignity and security. Later that day, journalist Camilla Torres reached out, intrigued by rumors of Nia's feud with Victor. Over coffee, Camilla made her pitch. Your story has the potential to go viral. If you share your fight with me, I can expose Victor's practices to the world. Nia hesitated, weighing the risks. Publicity could amplify their efforts, but it could also invite retaliation. Still, she couldn't ignore the opportunity. Fine, she said finally. But we do this on my terms. Camilla smiled knowingly. Deal. Together we'll make sure everyone hears the truth. Despite their growing momentum, cracks began to form in Nia's carefully laid plans. One evening, while reviewing contractor bids for renovations on the first property they purchased, Nia received an anonymous tip. Someone close to her team had leaked their strategy to Victor. Her suspicions were confirmed when Ronald Beck, contractor working under Marcus, confessed during a heated confrontation. I didn't have a choice, Ronald stammered, sweat beading on his forehead. Victor offered me more money than I've ever seen in my life. I have bills to pay. Nia stared at him, disbelief giving way to anger. So you sold us out, just like that? It's business, Ronald snapped defensively. Don't act like you wouldn't do the same if you were in my shoes. Before Nia could respond, Victor struck back with a vengeance. Frivolous lawsuits flooded their inbox, each one designed to delay the purchase process and drain their resources. Legal fees piled up, forcing Nia to spend hours poring over documents with Lena instead of focusing on their larger mission. Every setback makes me want to fight harder, Nia admitted. To Marcus late one night, frustration evident in her voice. But how much longer can we keep this up? Marcus placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. As long as it takes. Remember why we started this. The courtroom buzzed with tension as Victor's attorney, a slick-talking man named Gregory Kane, spun a narrative painting Nia as vindictive and opportunistic. Ms. Thompson isn't seeking justice, he declared smugly. She's waging a personal vendetta against my client, using baseless accusations to further her agenda. Nia clenched her fists beneath the table, forcing herself to remain composed. But inside, doubt gnawed at her resolve. Was she fighting a losing battle? Had Victor already won by turning public opinion against her? After the hearing adjourned, Nia retreated to a secluded hallway, overwhelmed by the weight of it all. Marcus found her moments later, leaning against the wall with tears brimming in her eyes. "What if he's right?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "What if no one believes us?" Marcus knelt beside her, gripping her hands tightly. "Then we make them believe. This isn't just about us anymore, Nia. It's about every family Victor's tried to destroy, about showing the world that racism doesn't get the last word." Her breathing steadied as his words sank in. Slowly she stood, wiping away her tears. "You're right. This isn't over. Not even close." With renewed determination burning in her chest, Nia prepared to face whatever came next. But little did she know the tide was about to turn in ways she never imagined. Victor Langston sat smugly in a plush leather chair on a popular morning news show, his polished smile masking the ugliness beneath. "Let me be clear," he began, leaning forward slightly for emphasis. "Ms. Thompson is trying to ruin my reputation because I wouldn't bow to her demands. She walked into my office demanding special treatment, and when she didn't get it, she decided to wage a smear campaign against me." The anchors nodded sympathetically, their expressions betraying no skepticism. One of them chimed in, "It sounds like you're dealing with someone who doesn't play fair." "Exactly," Victor replied, his tone dripping with faux humility. "I've built my career helping people find homes they love. But when someone like Ms. Thompson comes along, looking to exploit the system for personal gain, it becomes impossible to do my job." At home, Nia watched the segment unfold, her heart sinking with each word. The lies rolled off Victor's tongue so effortlessly that even she started to doubt herself for a moment. Social media was already ablaze with comments defending him. "Why can't she just move on?" one user wrote. Another added, "Sounds like she's just bitter." Nia clenched the remote tightly, her knuckles whitening. For days, she'd poured her energy into fighting back, but now it felt like the world had turned against her. Marcus walked in, sensing her distress. "Hey," he said softly, Don't let him get inside your head. But the damage was done. As Nia stared at the screen, she couldn't shake the question gnawing at her. What if this fight wasn't worth it? What if Victor had already won? Just as despair threatened to consume her, Nia received an email notification from Camilla Torres, and the subject line read, "It's time." Her pulse quickened as she opened the message. Attached was a link to Camilla's latest article, a bombshell exposé titled "The Man Behind the Mask: How Victor Langston Profits Off Racism." As Nia scrolled through the piece, her breath caught. Camilla had laid bare every dirty secret. Donnell had uncovered predatory lending practices, forged documents, and systematic displacement of minority families. Internal memos showed Victor instructing his team to target vulnerable borrowers, while emails revealed his disdain for undesirable demographics. Within hours, the story went viral. Protesters gathered outside Victor's office, chanting slogans like "Justice for Elm Street." Social media erupted with hashtags like "Expose Victor" and "Housing Equality Now." Supporters flooded Nia's inbox with messages of solidarity. For the first time in weeks, Nia allowed herself a small smile. Justice felt closer than ever, but she knew better than to celebrate prematurely. Victor wouldn't go down without a fight, and neither could she afford to lose focus. Not when they were so close. That same evening, Nia received another unexpected call. On the other end was Evelyn Hart, a wealthy philanthropist whose family had owned several properties on Elm Street for generations. "Ms. Thompson," Evelyn began, her voice firm yet kind. "I read Camilla's article, and I need to apologize for staying silent for far too long." Evelyn explained how her family had indirectly benefited from Victor's schemes, profiting from inflated property values while turning a blind eye to the harm caused. "But I want to make things right," she continued. "I'm prepared to sell my shares of Elm Street properties to you at below-market rates. Consider it my contribution to rebuilding what Victor destroyed." Nia was speechless. This was more than she dared hope for. "Thank you," she finally managed. "You have no idea what this means." By the next morning, negotiations were underway. Evelyn proved to be as determined as Nia, ensuring the deal moved quickly, despite Victor's attempts to interfere. The papers were signed. Nia felt a surge of confidence. Victory wasn't just possible, it was inevitable. With Evelyn's backing secured, Nia finalized the purchase of all remaining properties on Elm Street. The final signatures were inked in record time, leaving Victor scrambling to salvage what little remained of his crumbling empire. Victor watched helplessly as news broke of Nia's acquisition. His face paled as reporters swarmed his office, demanding answers about the allegations. Within days, his assets were frozen, his name tarnished beyond repair. Standing on the sidewalk outside her newly acquired properties, Nia took a deep breath, the weight of everything settling over her. The street stretched before her, a blank canvas ready to be transformed into something beautiful. Marcus joined her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "You did it," he said simply. Nia nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "No," she corrected, softly. "We did it, together." As neighbors began to emerge from their homes, curious about the changes ahead, Nia realized this wasn't just a victory for her family. It was a triumph for everyone who'd been told they didn't belong. And as she looked out at the faces gathering around her, she knew the hardest part was still to come, building a future where everyone truly had a place. The press conference was a sea of flashing cameras and murmured anticipation as Nia stepped up to the podium, flanked by Marcus, Lena, Camilla, and Evelyn. For a moment she paused, taking in the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about her, it was about every family who'd been told they didn't belong. "Today," Nia began, Her voice steady but charged with emotion. We stand together not as victims, but as victors. Elm Street is no longer a symbol of exclusion. It's proof that justice can prevail when we refuse to stay silent. Her words resonated deeply, drawing applause from the crowd. She spoke passionately about resilience, unity, and the importance of dismantling systemic racism one step at a time. Beside her, Marcus nodded proudly, while Lena and Camilla exchanged knowing glances. Evelyn stood tall, her presence a testament to the power of allyship. As the conference wrapped up, news outlets immediately pivoted to Victor's downfall. Clips aired of him being escorted out of his office by authorities, his once immaculate suit now disheveled. Reporters chased after him, shouting questions about criminal charges related to fraud and discrimination. Overnight, he became a pariah, a cautionary tale of arrogance meeting accountability. But for Nia, this wasn't enough. Justice wasn't just about tearing down oppressors, it was about building something better in their place. And there was still more work to be done. Weeks later, during renovations on one of the older homes, Nia stumbled upon a dusty box tucked away in the attic. Inside were brittle letters dated decades earlier, written by Victor's ancestors. As she read through them, her stomach churned. They detailed how his family had amassed their wealth through redlining, blockbusting, and other discriminatory practices designed to keep minority families out of desirable neighborhoods. These aren't just crimes against individuals, Nia muttered to herself, clutching the letters tightly. They're crimes against history itself. She shared the discovery with Lena and Camilla, both of whom agreed it was too important to ignore. Together, they decided to use these documents to educate others about the roots of housing inequality. People need to understand that racism isn't just personal, it's systemic, Nia explained. And if we don't learn from the past, we're doomed to repeat it. With renewed purpose, Nia vowed to turn this revelation into a teaching moment, ensuring that future generations would never forget how Victor's empire was built and why it had to fall. Under Nia's leadership, Elm Street underwent a transformation unlike anything the neighborhood had ever seen. Dilapidated houses were renovated into vibrant homes filled with life and color. Community centers sprang up, offering workshops, mentorship programs, and cultural events that brought people together. Former residents returned, their faces lighting up as they saw familiar streets transformed into spaces of inclusivity and opportunity. Newcomers arrived too, bringing fresh perspectives and ideas. At first, tensions lingered. Old wounds don't heal overnight, but over time, bridges were built. Conversations replaced confrontations, and understanding replaced suspicion. One evening, a block party brought everyone together. Children laughed as they played games in the street, while adults shared stories over plates of food. Nia watched from the sidelines, her heart swelling with pride. This wasn't just a neighborhood anymore, it was a community united by hope and determination. As fireworks lit up the night sky, Nia realized this was only the beginning. Change wasn't linear, it required constant effort and vigilance. But seeing what they'd accomplished so far gave her faith that progress was possible, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. Months later, Nia found herself standing before a crowd of young activists at a rally organized to celebrate their victory on Elm Street. The energy in the air was electric, fueled by passion and purpose. These were the change-makers of tomorrow, the ones who would carry the torch long after she was gone. "You've heard my story," Nia began, her voice ringing out across the gathering. "But let me make one thing clear. Victories like ours are just the beginning. Systemic racism isn't something you defeat once. It's a war fought one battle at a time." She urged them to channel their anger into action, their frustration into creativity. Don't wait for someone else to fix what's broken. Be the change you want to see. Whether it's housing, education, healthcare, or any other system that marginalizes, you have the power to rewrite the rules. Her words ignited a fire in the hearts of those listening. Cheers erupted as she concluded with a call to action. Together, we can create a world where everyone has a seat at the table, where no one is excluded because of the color of their skin or the circumstances of their birth. As the rally dispersed, Nia stood alongside smiling faces, young and old, diverse yet united. In that moment, she knew the fight for equality and justice would endure. It wasn't hers alone to carry. It belonged to all of them, and to the countless others who would rise to meet the challenges ahead. This story reminds us that justice is possible when we stand together, but the fight doesn't end here. If Nia's courage inspired you to believe in the power of resilience and change, let this be your moment to take action. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, because stories like these can spark real-world impact. Like this video to show your support for equality and empowerment, and subscribe so you never miss a story that challenges injustice and uplifts hope. Together, we can keep building a world where everyone belongs.